August is exactly the time of the year when it's easy to have disease scouting and good practices in general slip. We need a system that is simple enough that we don't feel like it competes with everything else we have to do, otherwise we're not gonna do it. So in this lesson, we're going to talk about how to organize scouting in a way that doesn't feel like extra work. We're going to talk about what's the crew's role in there, what's the greenhouse manager's role, and if you manage the greenhouse by yourself, you're both. So the crew's role, we spend hours weekly in the greenhouse and we always end up seeing it when something is off. The people who are harvesting, pruning, trellising, just walking the greenhouse, we want them to be aware of what's happening and to look at the plants. Instead of having to do like a special run that we will probably postpone and procrastinate and never do, the best way to do that is to have people always work the same bed so that it becomes their bed and they become responsible of the success of the bed. And that includes reporting diseases. We cannot expect everybody to be able to recognize diseases, so it's really just reporting. But there's one disease that we want to train them on, and it's late blight, because late blight can kill a crop very quickly. We want to be as reactive as possible when it happens. The way to do that is to put color pictures of late blight in the greenhouse so that everybody can see it. If they have the slightest doubt that it's late blight, we want them to report it a bit differently than other diseases. When they work on the tomatoes, we want them to have flagging tape so that if they see something they're not sure, what is this? They don't need to identify it. They just need to know, does it look like late blight, like the picture in the greenhouse? If it does, you put red tape on it. And when you tape it, just leave long enough so that's in the way and you can see it without having to walk every bed. If you have the slightest doubt it could be late blight, you flag it with red tape and you ping the greenhouse manager right away so that it can come and make sure it's not late blight or take action if it is. If you're confident it's not late blight, you could just put blue tape so that the greenhouse manager in his weekly round of the greenhouse will be able to address it since it's not as urgent. We don't want to interrupt people for nothing. So that's it for the crew's. Now the greenhouse manager's job. What the greenhouse manager has to do is to, when there's a suspected late blight, has to come as fast as possible to address it. The crew member ping it with radio, he comes right away. But for all the other disease, just once a week is enough. I recommend to do it in the morning so that wounds, like pruning wounds, have time to dry, and to do it before the weekly check-in so you can batch all the reviewing the crop state at the same time. For each flag, what we want to do is diagnose what is it. For this one, if I look closely, there seems to be gray spores on it. It's botrytis. The first step is to identify it. Second step is to take out the infected tissues. So for late blight and sclerotinia, you remove the whole plant. For early blight, botrytis, leaf mold, you prune what's infected. So in this case, the whole leaf. For powdery mildew and bacterial spot, you just leave it there. There's no point of removing it. So first we identify what it is. Second, we prune the infected tissues. Third, we plan the spray. So we don't want to spray right away necessarily. Ideally, we delegate it as well. So we plan the next morning where we can do it before 10 a.m. It won't be above 85 Fahrenheit because some products can burn the plant. There won't be condensation on leaves. We can manage to not enter the greenhouse for 24 hours for health reasons. And if you're wondering if it's okay to skip pollination for that day, yes, it is. Last step is to just remove the flag. So in that case, that's done. And then I can move on to the next flag. That's the greenhouse manager's job, to review that once a week. And the idea is that you don't want to interrupt that person's work all the time. So just once a week is enough, except if you have a late blight suspicion. But there's a bit more than that to the greenhouse manager's job, because you want that person to be responsible for the whole crop. Like, crew members are responsible of their beds, but the greenhouse manager is responsible for the whole crop. And that includes training the crew so that they know what to do. They know to be aware and look around when they're working the plants. We don't want to slow them down. We want them to do that as efficiently as possible, but still they have to be aware. They're going to see it if there's a problem. So they just need to know which flag to put. In our case, we use red for late blight and blue for other diseases. The last point I would say is I like to train people as much as possible as we go so that it's easy training. And that means for that greenhouse manager, when there are teams meetings, just to update the team, we found that disease, here's what we need to do and not do if there's anything you want them to do. And just casually during the meeting, people will slowly absorb it, start to be a bit more aware and learn what disease is so that when they see it in the future, they know a bit more. The last thing is the farm owner's job. The farm owner, what he needs to do is just train that greenhouse manager and give him the tools to do his job properly. In those tools, what I have in mind is a binder with color photos of all the diseases so that it's as easy as possible to identify, and cheat sheet of what to do with each of these diseases, because it's hard to remember everything, especially if it's been a while since we've seen a specific disease. We don't want to manage the crew. Leave your greenhouse manager to do it and just be available for that greenhouse manager. So you'll be able to better train that person rather than micromanage the crew down the line.
We built a document package with all you need to tackle the diseases we've been talking about. It includes the written protocol, the late plate photo to display in the greenhouse for the team, and the disease binder for the greenhouse manager. Check the link in the video description if you're interested. And that's all for this month. Next week, we start talking about how to boost the end of the season. Every week has a potential of $1,000 worth of yield per bed while we cut back on the lower end leaning labor. See you next week.